My mother-in-law stormed into my home screaming, "You fraud! That baby is from some secret arrangement." My wife whispered, "Maybe we need a DNA test." My brother-in-law said, "Get a lawyer, just in case." I stayed silent. A week later, I threw the test results on the table, 99.97% mine. Then I walked out, leaving their perfect family in shock. I should have known I was never going to be good enough for Evelyn Aldridge the day she hugged me at our engagement dinner and whispered, "You clean up well, for an architect." My name is Jack. I'm 38. I live in Santa Rosa, California, and I've been married to Elise Aldridge for 7 years. From the outside, you'd think I'd won the lottery, beautiful wife, great job, decent home. But what most people don't see is the family I married into, and how they made me feel like I had to earn my place at the table every damn day. The Aldridges were polished. Country club polished. Elise's dad, Gordon, had a kind of weary tolerance for me, the way a man might feel about a dog who kept tracking mud through the kitchen. But he was quiet and mostly harmless. It was Evelyn, Elise's mother, who had the real power. She didn't yell or throw scenes. She just smiled and made you feel like garbage with a compliment. "Oh, Jack, I love how you always find ways to be useful. You're like one of those little Swiss Army knives," she said once, right in front of Elise's brother Lucas and his wife Chelsea. They all laughed like it was charming. I laughed too, but I felt it. Every time. Evelyn adored Lucas. He could do no wrong. Married his college sweetheart, got a job in sales for some tech company, and bought a house down the street from theirs in Walnut Creek. Chelsea was bubbly, always saying the right thing. They had a perfect golden retriever, for God's sake. I mean, come on. Meanwhile, Elise and I were trying. After 3 years of not trying, we went through tests, appointments, uncomfortable conversations with specialists. Every month came with fresh disappointment. And somehow Evelyn always knew the right moment to make it worse. "Well, maybe it's for the best," she said once, gently swirling her wine at dinner. I mean, parenting is so much harder when the foundation isn't traditional. Whatever the hell that meant. When we finally conceived, after 2 rounds of IUI and 1 failed IVF cycle, I thought maybe, finally, things would change. Evelyn forced a smile when we told her, then immediately asked how far along we were. She didn't hug Elise. She barely even looked at me. 2 weeks later, Lucas and Chelsea announced they were pregnant too. And just like that, Evelyn lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. "She's glowing." Evelyn beamed, clutching Chelsea's hands. "This baby's going to be so special. Just like you, sweetheart." That night, while Elise and I were brushing our teeth, I asked if she'd noticed how different her mom had reacted to their news. "Of course I noticed," Elise said, spitting toothpaste into the sink. "But that's just how she is. She doesn't mean anything by it." But she did. She always did. At family gatherings, it got worse. Evelyn would gush about Chelsea's morning sickness like it was a badge of honor. "She's so connected to the baby already. Isn't that incredible?" she said while ignoring Elise's nausea entirely. When I'd offer to help carry things or clean up, Evelyn would smile and say, "Oh, don't strain yourself, Jack. You've got to save your energy for those architectural sketches, right?" Like I was a child who needed to stay out of the way. Still, I clung to the idea that fatherhood might change things. Maybe once Evelyn saw me holding her grandchild, her actual flesh and blood grandson, she'd soften. Maybe I'd finally belong. That was the hope I carried. Bet somehow, this baby would build a bridge where no words ever could. It started small, the way these things always do. A comment here. A question there. Evelyn didn't throw accusations. She dropped seeds, careful and deliberate, like she was planting something ugly and waiting for it to bloom. We were sitting on her patio, a couple weeks after the gender reveal. It was supposed to be a relaxed Sunday. Elise and I brought cupcakes. Blue filling, big smiles. Everyone clapped. Evelyn waited until Elise had gone inside to help her dad with drinks. Then casually, she leaned in. "So," she said, folding her hands on the table, "when exactly did Elise find out she was pregnant?" I looked up, surprised. About 10 weeks ago." "Why?" Her lips pressed together like she was trying not to smirk. "No reason. It's just, well, you two have been trying for so long. It's wonderful, of course. Miraculous, really. Just sudden." I didn't respond. I knew better than to take the bait. But I felt something shift then, a small crack in the air between us. A week later, Elise showed me a text from her mom that made my stomach twist. "Sweetheart, just thinking. Are you sure you were the one who initiated the fertility treatments? Jack seems like he's always 10 steps ahead. Just don't want you getting swept along without realizing it. Love you." Elise laughed it off. She's being protective. She's just anxious. I wanted to believe that. I really did. But then Evelyn came over for lunch one Saturday and asked if she could see the ultrasound pictures again. Elise pulled them out, those grainy, shadowy snapshots that had become the wallpaper of our lives, and handed them over with a proud smile. Evelyn tilted her head. "Well, huh? What?" I asked. "Oh, nothing." She waved it off. Just, the nose is so different from our side of the family. I mean, maybe it's just the angle. Hard to tell from these early ones. Elise gave her a look. Mom, I'm not saying anything bad. Just interesting. That's all. That night, I lay awake while Elise slept beside me. My brain wouldn't shut off. The way Evelyn kept circling back to how quick the pregnancy was. How she questioned Elise's judgment in small, quiet ways. It wasn't just disapproval anymore. It was something else, something colder. A few days later, Gordon pulled me aside in the driveway. Look, don't let Evelyn get to you, he said quietly. She's intense. Is that what we're calling it now? I asked. He sighed, rubbed the back of his neck. She wants the best for Elise. Sometimes it comes out sideways. 2 nights later, Elise told me her mom had suggested something even worse. She said maybe we should run a background check on you, Elise said, half laughing like it was absurd. You know, just to be sure. I stared at her, stunned. Did she actually say that? She framed it like a joke, but, yeah, she said, you trust so easily, honey. Some people aren't always who they say they are. That's when I knew. Evelyn wasn't just being difficult. She wasn't just cold. She didn't trust me. Worse, she didn't believe the baby was mine. The night Liam was born, I cried harder than I ever expected. He came out squirming and red-faced, with a full head of dark hair and a scream that felt like it cracked something open in my chest. Elise was exhausted but glowing, her hands squeezing mine as the nurses cleaned him up and laid him against her chest. I couldn't stop looking at him. I couldn't stop whispering, "Hey, buddy. I'm your dad. I'm right here." For a few hours, everything felt perfect. Just us and our boy, wrapped in warm hospital light and the hum of monitors. Elise fell asleep, and I held Liam against my chest in the little recliner, staring at his tiny eyelids twitching as he dreamed. He was real. He was mine. And I let myself believe, just for a little while, that this might finally be the start of something good. Then Evelyn arrived. She walked into the room with her signature smile, the one that was too bright to be sincere, and a bouquet of white roses. Gordon followed behind her, more subdued, holding a teddy bear with the tag still dangling off one ear. "Oh, he's here," Evelyn said, too loudly, as if she were performing for an audience. "Look at him." I stood and gently passed Liam over to her, trying to keep my face neutral. I watched her carefully as she took him, cradled him for barely a moment, and then frowned. She tilted her head. "Well, doesn't look like an Aldridge at all, does he?" Gordon shifted uncomfortably. I said nothing. "What's that supposed to mean?" Elise asked from the bed, her voice still raspy. Evelyn glanced at her like she hadn't realized Elise was listening. "Oh, nothing, darling. Just, babies usually have some family resemblance right away. Lucas looked just like your father the minute he was born." She passed Liam back to me with a tight smile, like she couldn't wait to get him out of her arms. "He's very different." I felt Liam's weight settle into my arms, but everything in me was tense. "Mom," Elise said slowly. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything," Evelyn replied. "I just think you two should be honest with each other about how this all came together." "What the hell does that mean?" I said, my voice low. Evelyn didn't look at me. She looked straight at Elise. "Sweetheart, can we speak privately?" "No," Elise said firmly. Evelyn blinked, surprised. "I think it would be good for us to have a little heart-to-heart." I said no, Elise snapped. "You don't get to walk in here and accuse my husband of something without even saying it out loud." Evelyn's mouth pinched. "I'm just saying, something about this doesn't add up. And I'm not the only one who sees it." The room went silent. Liam stirred, letting out a soft grunt against my chest. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't going to stop. Evelyn wasn't just suspicious. She was convinced of something. And she wasn't going to let it go. It happened 3 days after we brought Liam home from the hospital. Elise was upstairs napping finally, after a long night of feedings, and I was in the kitchen sterilizing bottles when I heard the front door unlock. Not knock. Not ring. Unlock. I froze, then stepped into the hallway just in time to see Evelyn walk into my house like she owned it, purse on her arm, eyes scanning the space like she was conducting an inspection. "Evelyn," I said, stunned. "What the hell are you doing here?" She stopped, her face unreadable. "I still have a key. Elise gave it to me when you moved in. That was 6 years ago." She shrugged, already walking deeper into the living room. "It's still my daughter's home." I followed her, my heart thudding. "You need to leave." She turned and looked at me, and for once, the smile was gone. Her voice was low. Cold. "I know what you did." I blinked. "Excuse me." "You think you're clever," she said, stepping closer. "You think you can manipulate my daughter, convince her she's pregnant while secretly using a surrogate to pass off someone else's child as her own." I stared at her. "Are you out of your mind? Don't play dumb with me, Jack." She jabbed a finger toward the baby monitor sitting on the coffee table. Liam's soft breathing echoed through the speaker. "That baby doesn't look anything like Elise. Or you. And you knew she'd never agree to something so unnatural, so you took control. You tampered with her treatments. You lied." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're seriously accusing me of faking a pregnancy and smuggling in someone else's kid? Her chin lifted. I've spoken to people. What people? She ignored the question. You wanted a child so badly you were willing to deceive her. And now you've trapped her in this fantasy where she's the mother of a child who's not even biologically connected to her. That's psychotic. Is it? She snapped. Because you were always the one pushing for the treatments. Always the one handling the appointments. And Elise was just so eager to make you happy. I took a step back, trying to process what the hell was happening. You broke into my house to say this? You think I'd lie about fathering my own child? You think I'd, what? Steal a baby? Just then, Elise came down the stairs, bleary-eyed and holding onto the railing. What's going on? She asked, voice groggy. Evelyn turned toward her with lightning speed. Sweetheart, you need to listen to me. Jack's not who you think he is. Elise's face went pale. Mom, stop. No, I'm serious. You need to get a paternity test. Before it's too late. Too late for what? Elise asked, her voice cracking. For you to wake up from whatever spell he has you under. Evelyn shouted. He manipulated you. I know he did. Get out, Elise whispered, her voice shaking. Evelyn froze. Elise stepped closer, tears in her eyes. You're talking like I'm stupid. Like I let someone trick me into having a child. And I'm not going to let you stand in my home and accuse my husband of being a liar. I'm only trying to protect you, Evelyn said. No, you're trying to control me, Elise said. And I'm done with that. For a moment, it was quiet. Then Evelyn, still standing tall, turned back to me. If you have nothing to hide, you'll take the test. I looked at Elise. Her jaw trembled. And then, quietly, she said, maybe we should. Just to be sure. My heart sank. She couldn't even look at me. And in that moment, everything broke. I didn't talk much after that day. I fed Liam, changed him, held him when he cried. But I didn't sing to him anymore. I didn't whisper things to make him laugh or bounce him on my knee while I watched TV. I did what I had to do. Like a job. Because no matter how innocent his little face looked, I couldn't stop thinking about the look on Elise's. That quiet, nervous voice. Maybe we should. Just to be sure. Like I hadn't been beside her through every appointment. Like I hadn't watched the nurse find a vein in her arm or wiped her tears after each failed cycle. Like I was just some guy. The test was scheduled for the following week. Private lab. Confidential. I didn't argue. I didn't protest. I just nodded and signed the paperwork. I think part of me was too tired to fight anymore. Then came the meeting. Evelyn called it a family review, as if we were a company holding a shareholder meeting. Elise told me about it like it was no big deal. Just a talk, she said. They want to make sure everything's okay. She said they, but really she meant her mother. We gathered in the Aldridge living room on a Thursday evening. Liam stayed with a neighbor for an hour so we could focus. It was the first time I'd been in that house since the birth. It felt smaller than I remembered. And colder. Gordon sat stiffly in his usual armchair, looking like he wanted to disappear. Lucas leaned against the mantel, arms crossed. Chelsea perched next to him, avoiding my eyes. Elise sat next to me on the couch, silent. Evelyn stood like she was running a board meeting. Thank you all for being here, she began, her voice smooth. This isn't easy, but it's necessary. I folded my hands in my lap and said nothing. She launched in. About how Elise had always been so trusting. About how Jack, me, had come into their lives quickly and forcefully. About how the pregnancy had been too convenient after so many struggles. How the baby didn't resemble the family. How I'd been secretive with the medical process. Chelsea added quietly, Elise, I mean, you said yourself you didn't even understand half the things Jack was doing with the treatments. Lucas, who had once played poker with me on Fridays and called me his brother-in-law MVP, just nodded solemnly. You should prepare for the worst. The worst. Like I was some kind of criminal. Evelyn paced. This isn't about hating Jack. It's about protecting you. And that child. If this is all a misunderstanding, the test will clear it up. But if it isn't, then we need to know what we're dealing with. I turned to Elise. She hadn't said a word the whole time. Elise, I said softly, do you really think I'd lie to you like that? She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw it. The hesitation. I don't know, she whispered. I don't want to believe that. But after everything, can't we just be sure? Something inside me broke then. Not loudly, quietly, like glass cracking under pressure. You don't hear the shatter right away, but it's already too late. Fine, I said, standing up. You want a test? You'll get your test. I looked around the room. This family that once toasted my engagement with champagne and called me Jack of all trades. Now they looked at me like I was some kind of con artist. I hope you all remember this moment, I said. Because I sure as hell will. Then I left. Alone. And for the first time since Liam was born, I didn't feel like a father. I felt like a suspect. I stayed at my sister's house after that. Valerie lived in Healdsburg, about 40 minutes away, in a little one-story house tucked behind a vineyard. The minute I showed up on her porch with an overnight bag and that look in my eyes, she didn't ask questions. Just opened the door and stepped aside. She let me have the guest room. Liam stayed with Elise. Not because I didn't want him. God, I wanted him more than anything. But because I couldn't bear the look on her face. That mix of guilt and doubt. I couldn't look at my son without hearing Evelyn's voice. He doesn't look like an Aldrich. For the first couple days, I barely talked. Valerie let me be. She brought me coffee, grilled cheese sandwiches, and let me sit on her back deck staring at nothing. No pressure, just presence. On the third day, she walked in holding a dusty photo album from our mom's closet. You said they think Liam doesn't look like you, she said, flipping it open and sliding it across the table. Well, look at this. It was our grandfather, William McIntyre. My mom's father. Black and white photo, but unmistakable. Narrow eyes, strong jawline, and a faint swirl in the left iris. A trait Liam had. The pediatrician had called it a coloboma, rare but harmless. Valerie turned the page to a baby picture of Grandpa Will. The resemblance was striking. He's yours, Jack, she said. Anyone with eyes can see it. I swallowed hard, staring down at the photo. My throat burned. We went deeper. Pulled out family documents, old medical notes, a folder of birth certificates and health records our mom had kept in a drawer for decades. Valerie even found an old article in a genealogy newsletter about iris anomalies in our family line. The more we looked, the more pieces started to click into place. That night, Valerie made tea and sat down across from me at the kitchen table. You know, she said, this isn't the first time Evelyn's done something like this. I blinked. What do you mean? I called Aunt Marion, she said. Mom's college roommate. She knew Evelyn back then. Turns out Evelyn had a reputation, even in her 20s, for suspicion and sabotage. Marion remembered her spreading rumors about a professor's wife, trying to break up a friend's engagement because she thought the guy wasn't ambitious enough. Controlling. Manipulative. Always smiling. She thrives on control, Valerie said. If she can't own the narrative, she burns the whole thing down. I sat there in silence, the teacup warm in my hands. By the next morning, I had pulled together everything. The photos, the medical traits, even a short statement from Aunt Marion confirming Evelyn's long history of undermining people close to her. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. Evelyn thought I'd crumble under pressure. But what she didn't realize, what none of them realized, was that I wasn't going to defend myself anymore. I was going to prove the truth. And this time, I wasn't coming back empty-handed. It all came down to a white envelope. The Aldrich house was full that afternoon. Evelyn had insisted we meet there, familiar territory, she called it. But I knew it was about control. She wanted home field advantage, the same room where she'd once planned wedding showers and birthday dinners like she was hosting royalty. Now it looked like a courtroom. Elise sat stiffly on the couch, hands clasped in her lap. Gordon stood near the window, silent as always, pretending to care about the view. Lucas leaned in a corner, trying to look neutral, but his folded arms gave him away. Chelsea sat beside Elise, eyes darting between us like she was bracing for impact. And in the center of it all, Evelyn. Standing, envelope in hand. Smug. I had them mail it to me directly, she said, holding it up like a trophy. Neutral source. No tampering. No one spoke. She broke the seal. She read quietly for a few seconds. Her smile faded. Then her mouth tightened. She didn't say a word. Just handed it to Elise. Elise took it, read it once, then twice. Her lips parted. She looked at me, eyes wide. It says, probability of paternity, 99.97%. I didn't say anything. I just looked at Evelyn. For a long second, she didn't meet my eyes. Then she turned away, as if the paint on the wall suddenly deserved her full attention. I pulled out a folder from my coat pocket and placed it on the table, just in case the numbers weren't enough. Inside were the photos, Liam and my grandfather side by side. The eye trait, the birthmark on the left shoulder, the high arched feet we thought were just a fluke. Valerie had even included a side-by-side from when I was a baby. Same exact hairline. Same little frown when sleeping. I passed them around. Evelyn didn't take one. Then I spoke. For months, I've been treated like a liar. A fraud. A man pretending to be a father to his own son. Lucas looked down. I stayed quiet out of respect. For Elise. For Liam. For this family. I turned to Evelyn now. But you didn't just question me. You called me a con artist. You broke into my home. You accused me of stealing a baby. Still she said nothing. But her fingers curled around the edge of the chair like she wanted to snap the wood in half. Here's the thing, I continued. You've done this before. People talk, Evelyn. People remember. Aunt Marion sends her regards, by the way. Evelyn's eyes flicked up at that. Barely. But I saw it. You've made a career out of gaslighting people. Out of controlling everything and calling it love. But this time, you picked the wrong target. Silence. Elise looked down at the paper again, then at me. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I nodded once, but I didn't say it was okay, because it wasn't. Chelsea reached across the table, touching Elise's arm. Lucas looked like he wanted to disappear. And Gordon? He just exhaled. Maybe the only honest thing he'd done all day. I stood. I have what I came for. No one tried to stop me. As I reached the front door, I turned back one last time. Evelyn stood rigid, her arms crossed, the envelope still sitting on the table like a bomb that hadn't gone off the way she wanted. You spent months trying to prove Liam wasn't mine, I said quietly. But now everyone knows who he really belongs to. I opened the door. And who he doesn't. Then I left. With the truth. And my dignity. I filed the divorce papers the next morning. No dramatic announcement. No warning. I didn't need a scene. I just needed a clean break. Elise called me before noon. Jack, she said, breathless, like she'd just run a marathon. You filed? Yeah, I said simply. I did. I didn't think. You made your choice, Elise, I said, calm but firm. You believed your mother. You let her treat me like a criminal in our own home. And when I needed you to stand beside me, you looked away. I was scared, she said. Everything was so confusing. No, I cut in. It wasn't. Not really. You just didn't trust me. There was silence on the line. Then she whispered, what about Liam? I'm seeking full custody, I said. You're not unfit. But the environment you allowed? The accusations? The surveillance? That's not a home for a baby. Not for my son. Jack, please, she said. Her voice cracked. Don't take him away from me. I'm not trying to hurt you, I said. But I won't let him grow up being treated the way I was. Second-guessed. Shamed. Used. Later that week, Evelyn showed up on my porch. She didn't ring the bell. Just stood there like a statue, waiting. I opened the door and didn't invite her in. You're going to destroy this family, she said. I leaned against the doorframe. No, I'm just walking away from it. You can't take that baby from Elise, she snapped. She's his mother. She's the one who stood there while you called me a fraud, I said. She's the one who made me prove I was Liam's father. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. So what? This is revenge. No, I said. This is protection. For once, she had nothing to say. Just turned and walked back to her car. No smile. No parting shot. Lucas and Gordon stayed silent through it all. I didn't hear a word from them. Chelsea sent a quiet message the next day. I'm so sorry. I should have said something. I didn't respond. When I walked out of that house with Liam in my arms, Elise stood at the window, watching. She didn't wave. She didn't cry. She just stood there, stunned and still, like she'd finally realized what she'd lost. I strapped Liam into his car seat, kissed his head, and climbed into the driver's seat. The sun was setting behind us, casting long shadows across the driveway. As I pulled away, I didn't feel angry. I felt done. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the end of a lie I'd tried too long to believe in. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a stranger in my own life. I felt like a father. Finally, it's been 6 months since I left the Aldridge house behind. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment now, a quiet complex in Windsor, close to my sister Valerie. It's nothing fancy, laminate floors, humming fridge, squeaky door to the balcony, but it's mine. Ours. Liam's crib sits in the corner of my room. I tried putting him in the 2nd bedroom once, to see if he'd sleep through the night on his own. I lasted an hour before I moved him back. I guess some habits are hard to break. I've gone back to work part-time, enough to keep the office running, not enough to disappear into it like I used to. My boss was understanding. Take what you need, he said. So I did. I also joined a parenting group on Thursday mornings. Mostly moms and a couple of us dads. It felt awkward at first, but then someone handed me a cold coffee and told me everyone had Cheerios in their car seat. Now I look forward to it. It's nice to be around people who don't treat fatherhood like a courtroom. Elise tried calling twice. The first time, she left a voicemail I didn't listen to. The second time, she didn't leave anything at all. I never blocked her. I didn't feel the need. I just didn't pick up. She sent a letter once. Said she was in therapy. Said she hoped someday Liam would understand why she froze the way she did. I didn't reply. Maybe I will. One day. But not today. Because today, Liam took his first steps. Right here, between the coffee table and the couch. No camera crew. No grandparents clapping. Just me, in sweatpants, holding out a cracker. He toddled 3 wobbly steps and fell into my arms, giggling. And when I looked down at his little face, his wide-set eyes, that dimple on his left cheek, the swirl in his iris, I saw it. Not Evelyn. Not Gordon. Not even Elise. I saw me. He looks more like me every day. But that's not why I know he's mine. I know because he trusts me. Because when he cries, he reaches for me. Because when I whisper, I'm right here, buddy, he quiets down like the world just got a little safer. He doesn't care about DNA or paternity reports. He cares that I show up. That I stay. that I never doubt him, and he never doubts me. That's what love looks like. And that's what we're building now. Just me and my son. No lies, no judgment, no noise. Just truth. And the long, steady work of starting over.